Today on the Sustainable Jungle podcast, I'm joined by Katie Schmidt, the founder and creative mind behind Passion Lilie, a fashion brand that's all about style, story, and sustainability. Based in New Orleans and rooted in partnerships with artisan communities in India, Passion Lilie is one of the few fashion brands out there that has earned our top-rated label. We'll talk about what that means and what makes Katie's work so unique. Plus, we'll also go behind the scenes of running an ethical fashion label in today's world. Also, as a reminder, we are working away at building a members-only area where we will share more bonus content from this episode and plenty of other exclusive content and goodies. So if you'd like to know more about that, please register your interest via the link in our description. Now, there may be a bit of background audio in this episode as there was a thunderstorm delighting New Orleans while we were recording. Nothing like a bit of nature raging in the background. Okay, let's dive in. Katie, welcome to our show. To start us off, tell us more about you and where you were born and where you grew up.
I'm born in Fresno, California. I grew up there. It's in the middle of California. And then I went to school at UC Irvine, which is the south of California, and did my master's program in France.
Wow, so all over the show. Can you talk us through how your journey in fashion began, especially how you transitioned from studying fashion and working in costume design to eventually founding Passion Lilie?
Yeah, so I started out as I studied drama. I got a bachelor's of arts in drama with the emphasis on costume design. So I started my career working as a costume designer, assistant designer, and a lot working as a tailor and seamstress and craftsperson in costume shops. And then I went on to get my master's. I wanted to get more of a business degree because I wanted to go more on the business side of things. So I got a degree in luxury and fashion management. And that was in the south of France. And when I was studying, I started to learn about triple bottom line businesses, and I found this very interesting. And so I did my thesis on a company, a very small company in the US that's no longer around, but that kind of led to my dive into fair trade. And I ended up working for a fair trade store in New Orleans and called In Exchange. And then I had a chance to go to India. And so I went to India and I got to see kind of firsthand how the whole artisan made process worked. I was visiting a friend who had a workshop they were just making for products for the it was not an export business, just for the local economy. But it was all hand embroidery, and they weren't promoting themselves as fair trade. They didn't really know what fair trade was, but all the concepts of what they were doing was very much a fair trade business. And this kind of sparked my idea of, I'd already knew about fair trade. I was working in a fair trade shop and really wanting to combine the business skills I had recently learned with my design skills. And I felt like at the time, this was over 10 years ago, there was a lack of products in the market that were fair trade, affordable, and stylish. And so that was my goal.
Oh, awesome. And so you went from France to New Orleans? Is that because the store was there that you liked? Yeah.
Yeah. So before I had gotten my master's, I went to New Orleans to visit a friend. And I fell in love with the city, and I got a job. It was kind of like a transitional job. I was working. I had like a summer job in New Orleans while I was waiting to go and get my master's program. And so when I finished my master's program, I came back to New Orleans to finish my thesis. I really didn't think I would stay here. I didn't think there was any opportunities to stay here, but I loved the city. And that's when I ended up, the job posting came up for this fair trade store.
Love it. Very cool. And it's interesting to me that when you were studying, that you found the triple bottom line concept interesting. What do you think in your background or your past or your personality, or what is it about you or was there a specific moment or experience or something that sort of sparked that interest and made you interested in triple bottom line concepts?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of had a philanthropic mindset, but I wasn't so much interested in nonprofits. Just I don't know, I just didn't find that concept something that I felt like I could work towards. And I also a lot of my degree was about luxury, and I felt like a lot of the concepts of luxury are um really kind of silly because it's all about creating products that are essentially unattainable for the average person, or even just creating that perception that they're unattainable. So it's a really interesting concept, and but I felt like I was something that I could never see myself working in the luxury market. I'm not a luxury consumer. I don't know ever imagine myself being a luxury consumer. And it just kind of happened that we had this course about triple bottom line businesses, and I felt like this was a perfect pairing of my desire to do something good as well as my desire to, I feel like I have a business mindset, and to put those two things together.
I love that. That resonates. And for those who might be new to Passion Lilie, can you give us a quick overview of what you do, what kinds of products you offer, and the overall mission?
Yeah, so all the products, so Passion Lilie is a fair trade fashion brand. And our mission, is to create stylish, well-fitting garments that are affordable and fair trade. And we create, clothing as well as accessories and a little bit of home decor goods. And all the products are all natural fibers, mostly organic cotton, and they are all artisanal fabrics, so either hand block printed, ikat woven, or screen printed.
And you're, as we've talked about, you're based in New Orleans, and the brand has the strong tie to the artisan groups in India, like you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit more about, because I saw on your website you talked about how the two, you saw the links between the two places and how they've inspired you because of their vibrance and so on. Could you talk a little bit more about that and share a little bit how that influences your designs and your values and the way that the business is run?
Yeah, so I do feel like there's a lot of similarity between New Orleans and India. And I know I'm saying a country as a whole, it's hard to generalize, but I feel like New Orleans is different from anywhere else in the US, and it's very strong on culture, and it's very strong on traditions. And that's something that's very important to the Indian culture, I would say, from my perspective. And also it's New Orleans is very colorful. We have very colorful houses, even the way people dress, people, I feel like in New Orleans, they all have their own style. You have characters in New Orleans that are just individuals that everybody knows because of the way that they dress, their persona and their character. And in India, color is equally important. It's a very colorful city that can be found in the clothing and the architecture. And so I do feel like there's those similarities between the two. And I really wanted to present that in the garments and show, I think that wearing colorful garments can help brighten a person's mood. So I feel that that's very important.
I love it. And your collections often showcase those heritage techniques that you mentioned, like the hand-woven ikat. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah.
Ikat.
So some people say ikat and some people say ikat.
Okay, well, I can't get it wrong then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there is a right way to say it, but apologies to anyone listening that is hearing me say that completely wrong. And also the traditional block prints. So you've talked about these a little bit already, but I was curious about what drew you to using these methods in your designs. Is that, based on what you've just said, about pulling in these colors and these vibrancy, is that kind of what influenced you to use these methods, or are there other sort of elements to that part of the brand identity?
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely part of it. Also, I just think it's such a unique method that it is, other cultures have different artisanal fabrics, but this is also hand block printing and ikat weaving. They're processes that are artisanal, but at the same time, they can be done in a way that is quote unquote affordable and can be interpreted for fashion textiles. That I find it a very unique process, and it's also you as a designer, you are a little bit limited using block printing and ikat designs, but I think that's what kind of makes it more challenging. And also at the same time makes it easier because it's not like you have endless possibilities. You do have to work within a certain range of what's possible and not possible.
Right. And I guess it makes the creative process just that much more interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we recently had the pleasure of rating Passion Lilie as part of our brand rating system. So congratulations, you're one of our top rated brands. So I wanted to share a few highlights from that rating, which I've written down here and I'll read. So when we rated Passion Lilie, it was clear that the brand is deeply rooted in ethics and artistry. Your commitment to fair trade principles and long-standing partnerships with artisan communities in India stood out as a core strength. And we also loved your use of low-impact materials like GOTS-certified organic cotton and natural dyes, along with transparent supply chain practices. And beyond the ethics, your designs are beautiful, durable, and timeless, which in itself is a driver of sustainability in the fashion industry. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about your commitment to that artisan-made clothing. Can you walk us through the design and production process and how you embed those fair trade principles into that production process?
Yes. So when I started out the company, I wanted it to be a fair trade company. And I have really relied since the beginning and to this day on the Fair Trade Federation to guide our principles and ethics. And I think they do a great job about it, and also about consistently updating those principles. So they have 9 principles that we follow. And we are a member with the Fair Trade Federation as well. And so you can go on their website and you can find all those principles, but some of the main principles that we follow is that we pay a fair and living wage. So a fair wage is not the minimum wage. It's above the minimum wage, because in most settings, the minimum wage is not enough to cover basic bills. So a fair wage, we define it by a wage that can cover living essentials for a family, as well as extra money at the end of the month to save towards emergencies or maybe a new house or whatnot. And then making sure that we have transparent and accountable relationships. So just being upfront with our artisan groups throughout the process. Also making sure that we are, which is difficult in our economy, but consistently increasing our orders and not just giving them one big order and then they don't hear from us, because that's not sustainable. And of course, supporting a safe and healthy work environment, no child labor, and also respecting their cultural identities. And part of that is so as I mentioned, we're using artisanal techniques, like the ikat weaving, which is something that is very traditional. So it's important that we talk about what that means. Passion Lilie did not create ikat weaving, so we talk about the process and honor that on our website and social media.
Wow. I didn't realize there was quite so much to it. It's fascinating. Since launching Passion Lilie, has your approach to sustainability evolved? Were there any sort of key learnings or changes along the way that has helped that evolution?
Yes. I would definitely say it has evolved. I mean, for example, in the beginning, we did not use organic fabrics, and I didn't even think that was important. That was like a partial, like a business decision and a personal decision. And now I've realized how important that is. And I've even actually changed my own lifestyle of eating organic foods as well. So I feel like, my sustainability journey, both business wise and personally, has definitely changed. And of course, with the business, there's always improvements to be made in our sustainability journey. I feel like we've come really far, and I mean, of course, there's always still going to be more things to work on.
And are there any specific milestones on the sustainability or on the social impact front, because that's obviously central to Passion Lilie's business, that you're very proud of?
Yeah. So I am glad that we finally, I was wanting to figure out our CO2 emissions and really do a good analysis. And that's something I had been wanting to do for a few years. And so we worked with Grow Ahead to do that. And I was really proud that it was only 7 metric tons. And we're working with Grow Ahead to make a donation to them, and then they use that money for community-led reforestation projects. So that's something that I've really been excited about. And then most of our artisan groups we worked with pretty much since the beginning, or like since like year 3 or so. And so it's really awesome to see how their businesses have grown. For example, the tailoring unit that we work with, we're not their only client, so I can't take full responsibility, but they moved from one facility to a much bigger facility that is a green building. So that's really cool to see. Same thing, we've seen that growth with the ikat weavers, going from one house to a bigger house, with the block printers adding more tables because the demand has expanded. So that's really cool to see.
That's amazing. It's like often not the story that you hear at the moment with sustainability focused brands. So that's really awesome. Yeah. And I also noticed, and I just wanted to ask you before we move on to the next question, the 7 metric tons, what do you think's contributing to keeping that relatively low?
Oh, what's contributing? Well, we're a very small business. So, I mean, just in general, our warehouse is behind my house. So that also helps a lot. Like I, just in a lot of energy saving ways, and in terms of like commuting to work, the other employee we have one employee who works from home, one employee who rides a bike.
I guess your production's often very hand.
Oh, yeah. And then our production, yeah. So our production, we use like almost like very little. The biggest amount is shipping the products. We use almost no energy in the production because the tailoring unit is probably like 90% solar run, and then block printing, they're mostly outdoors. They have like one area that's inside, so they do use some lights. But it's all manual. And then ikat weaving as well, same thing.
Very cool. Now, I noticed your customer reviews are almost always glowing. So I wanted to ask you what you think your customers connect with most when it comes to your products or the brand overall.
So definitely I would say comfortability. Mm-hmm. People also love the designs. They love the prints. And people do comment, that it's a fair price, for what it is. And then I would say as well, the mission, is important too. But I think that first and foremost, people fall in love with the fit. And I think that goes with any product. You have to have a good product. You can have a great mission, but you have to have a good product.
I should have asked you before. Do you do all the designs yourself?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, that's a credit to you then to have come up with such comfortable products that people love. And I think the other thing that I sort of noticed with Passion Lilie is your range doesn't constantly change. It's pretty stable. I imagine that you have sort of limited new product releases, which is amazing in a fashion industry that is so full of completely new products every week, or every few days in some cases. So was that a conscious decision for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we are a small company, and so it's just impossible to produce more designs. It's too costly and it would be really wasteful. And So my goal was really to create silhouettes that would be kind of timeless in design and that can fit different body types. So I only introduce new silhouettes, so we have 2 collections a year, and within each collection, I might have anywhere from 1 to 4 new silhouettes. And I really am only introducing things until I feel like something is getting tired. The customers, are getting tired of that, and it's time to introduce something new to keep it fresh. But I feel like there's a lot of value of having the same silhouettes with new prints each season, because customers can come back and they know, okay, this silhouette fit me well, this size fit me well, and then they can order it in different prints. So, it helps them, it helps minimize returns and creates better customer satisfaction.
Yeah, our head of content, Amber, she has one of your wrap dresses. And she just loves it. She always talks about it. So it's obviously something that just fits so well, and it's just so functional and comfortable, but also looks amazing.
Nice.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the physical store in New Orleans, sorry. Do the insights that you get from the in-person conversations with customers differ from online feedback? I'm sort of curious to understand sort of like the connection that you have with customers in real life, given we lead an online world. Like, you and I have never met before, and we've been, incommunicado for, a long time. So I wanted to ask you about what that experience is like relative to the online experience.
Yeah. So I definitely get a lot of feedback. I would say even more than my store, I get feedback from doing festivals and events. So I've been doing festivals since day one when I started Passion Lilie. And the thing that I really like about that is you get a lot of eyes on your products. I mean, depending on the festival, but if it's a good festival, you get a lot of people coming through, you get a lot of eyes on your product. You get a chance to see what do they gravitate to and not gravitate to. And I've had things online that will just sit online, and I think this, I thought it was a good product. Why is it sitting here? And then I'll bring it to a festival and people will pick it up and try it on and maybe buy it. And so that always is a question to me is, I wonder, is that something to do, is it the photography? Is it the website? Why is that? Or is it just like a different customer? And then at the festivals, customers will try things on, and I have a little like changing area. And so they kind of have to come out of the changing area to look in the mirror. And so it gives me a chance to see in real time how it fits and what could be improved or if it doesn't need to be improved.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, because I think a lot of brands don't have that sort of one-on-one connection with their customers anymore these days. So yeah, that's interesting. So looking ahead, what's next for Passion Lilie? Are there any projects or ideas on the horizon that you're excited about?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So we are working on a pre-loved site, and I think that I started working on it in January, and things just got busy because I was hoping to be able to launch it in the spring, but I think that we should be able to launch it in July for Plastic-Free July, which is soon. But I mean, I basically have it all ready to go. And the idea with the pre-loved site is customers can send in their Passion Lilie products that no longer serve them. As long as they're in decent condition, we'll go ahead and buy them, so they don't have to list anything online and wait for it to sell. We'll buy them, but they get store credit for that product, depending on, what condition it is and how long they've had it. And then we list it online, and then customers can then shop pre-loved pieces that, could be 40 to 90% off retail or whatever it might be.
Very cool. I think that makes a lot of sense. And how will it work? So the customers will ship it into you, and then you'll assess it first?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the customer, initially they fill out a form with all the details of the product and send in a couple pictures of the product just so we can confirm that it is one of our pieces and that it looks like it's in decent condition. And then we'll send you an email approving it or denying it and give you an estimate of what that store credit will be so that you can if you want to make a decision, if you want to send it in or not. And we'll provide you with a label. And then if you are local and you want to drop it off at our store, you can do that. And then you'll get a little bit extra because that saves us on shipping cost, and it's a bit of a greener option. And then once we receive the product, we review it. And if everything's according to how you've submitted, then we send you the store credit, and then the customer can go ahead and shop online, or they can even gift it to somebody else if they wanted to.
Passion Lilie goes circular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Well, that'll be great. I mean, I think customers will appreciate that, and it does make it just that much more sustainable. Although, Passion Lilie's products are mostly, organic cotton, so they are potentially, what one of our other brands that we work with a lot is called, they call it botanically circular. So you could compost it basically at the end of its useful life. But obviously it's got more wear in it, then it should come into your pre-loved store.
And I just want to add one thing. I did have a customer who came and saw me at a market and said she was a big Passion Lilie fan. And she said, I have, I think she likes the jersey dresses mostly. And she said, I have so many of them. And she said, I'm really hard on my clothing. And so once they get too worn out, I turn them into nightgowns. And she said, it's perfect because I have a nightgown with pockets. And then they have a second life that way.
Ideal. Wow, so smart.
Yeah.
Now, you've been in the space for a while. I think you mentioned 10 years plus. So from your perspective, has sustainable fashion changed since you started, and where do you think it's heading?
It's definitely changed. When I started, it was not, sustainability and fair trade were not words that people really knew as much about. And also just in general, the market was much smaller. There wasn't a lot of fair trade brands or sustainable brands. And also ones that were at or I would say like prices under $100 dresses, at the time, which $100 10 years ago is, inflation and all that. But at the same time, there's been a huge rise of fast fashion, as we know. There's also been, I think, more awareness of what fast fashion. I don't even know if anybody used the term fast fashion 10 years ago. I don't remember, when that term came. But so I think consumers know more what fast fashion is and why that's bad. But at the same time, we have this really challenging economic climate that is potentially getting even more difficult, especially in the US with the tariffs that we're facing. And so I think a lot of consumers might want to do good, but don't know how to do good or feel like they can't afford to do good with their shopping purchases.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the problem. It's the biggest problem, right? Facing the sustainable fashion industry or the sustainable product industry in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one thing about the fashion industry that you would love to see work completely differently, say in 5 years from now?
Yeah, so I would love it if a couple of things. One, I would love it if there was more mom and pop shops. Since the pandemic, we've seen a lot of them close. And then I think even within the last 3 years, we've seen a lot of them close. And I'm not saying it's the fault of the mom and pop shops. I wish that we had an economy that really supported them, because it's just such an amazing idea that you can have, an individual or a group of people that start this business. They're going to buy from other small businesses that are doing wholesale, that are sustainable or fair trade businesses. And so it's a great system that benefits a lot of people. And I just think it's such a cool idea. Like, you go to your local area and you can find some really cute, sustainable outfits or gifts. But it takes, I don't think it relies solely on the responsibility of the consumer. I think there needs to be changes in policy. I think there needs to be I think all around people need to be able to afford to shop at stores like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a lot that needs to change to make that a reality, but I agree that would be amazing. And
Yeah.
keeping it small so that sort of everyone gets a piece of the pie instead of consolidating at like the Walmart or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. What advice would you give to someone trying to shop more responsibly, especially when it comes to clothes?
Well, first of all, I think there's so many opportunities to buy secondhand. And I know I'm saying that when I mean, other than our pre-love site, I don't really have a secondhand business, but I don't shop much myself, but when I do, there's like things that I really specifically need. And I also feel like don't always have the money to shop from a sustainable brand. So I oftentimes will go to things like ThredUp and look for it. And then my other advice was, if you do want to shop new, is to make sure, find the brand that you love or brands that you love and sign up for their newsletters and follow their social media, because a lot of them will have end of season sales, like, we do the same thing, or different sales throughout the year where you can snag a good deal. I think just not impulse shopping and taking your time, you can make good purchases.
I love that idea of getting to know a brand and getting to know the brands and the styles that you really like and connecting with them sort of at a deeper level by joining their newsletter and sort of following them more closely instead of just hopping on whatever, latest thing pops up.
Right.
I think that's great advice. And finally, this is one that we ask all of our guests on this show. If you could have one piece of information or advice truly heard and understood by every single person on the planet, what would it be?
That we need to figure out how to take action, to save the planet. Like, this is for real. It's really sad when, the evidence is there every year. It's getting hotter. I mean, I live in New Orleans, and like, it's already so hot, and it affects everything, like, not only that it's just miserable, but it affects our sales, it affects everything. But when you see like beautiful things in nature, I'm from Fresno, and Yosemite is the national park that's there, and like, you see lakes that are drying up, you see natural disasters happening, the thing is that I think my plea would be is that every individual makes small changes, but I don't think it can't be all about on us. Us as in the average person. There needs to be changes with corporations and billionaires. It's as simple as that. Like, they are contributing way more. I mean, it's great to recycle, but there's really big changes that need to be made with the way that corporations are ran and the way that billionaires are living and spending their money.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap, where can listeners go to support Passion Lilie or learn more about what you're doing?
So, of course, our website, passionlilie.com. And then we are also on Instagram and Facebook at Passion Lilie.
And obviously a newsletter with maybe some deals.
Yep. And you can sign up for the newsletter. Yep, we do. We do an end of season sale twice a year and all kinds of other fun things.
I'll put the links to your website in the show notes or the description, as well as a link to our rating. So if folks want to read more about you that way as well. Is there any final message, anything that you'd like to add or leave our listeners with today that we haven't covered?
Just that I'm really excited to be here and talk about our company and talk about sustainability. And I really hope that the sustainable industry can keep growing, and all the small businesses out there that are struggling, we're struggling too. And I hope we can keep pushing through and make it through.
Yeah. Just got to get through the tariffs and the inflation and all those things. Katie, thank you for everything that you've shared so far. I've loved learning more about you and Passion Lilie and meeting you in person finally. And now we're gonna shift gears and move to a members only portion of our conversation. So for those listening who might be interested in supporting our work and getting access to exclusive content like that, just stay tuned or register your interest by the link in our description. A big thank you to Katie for joining us today and for everything that she's doing through Passion Lilie to uplift artisan communities, preserve heritage techniques, and promote ethical fashion. We hope this conversation offered a meaningful glimpse into what it takes to build a values-driven fashion brand and why thoughtful design, fair trade, and slow fashion matter more than ever. Stay tuned for more inspiring brand stories like this, and a reminder that our members-only content is coming soon for those who want to go deeper with these conversations. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, follow. We'll be most grateful for that, and we'll see you next time.